What's going on, traders? Andrew O'Connell here with Pristine Capital, coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is December 14th, 2021. Please go ahead, click the like button on this video. Also subscribe to my channel. That way you don't miss any of my future videos. Today we're going to dive into the carnage in these growth stocks. It was pretty insane. A lot of stocks that were going down 5%, 10%. The carnage and the liquidation is really just continuing in the market, and today they shot the generals. Now there's this theory out there that when a war is being lost, they shoot the generals last, and I noticed some shooting of the generals today with the FANG stocks just being super weak. So let's dive into all of this action. Before we do that, quick first disclaimer: nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan, your own risk parameters. Last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account to any one of my trades or anyone's trades for that matter. All right, team. Box scores for today. We have the S&P 500 finishing down 0.69%. We have the Nasdaq QQQ finishing down 1.04%, which is a big change. The Nasdaq, while the market has been weak, this has been the index that's really been holding things together. So it is a behavior change that we're seeing the Nasdaq, biggest loser for today. And this is telling me we might have some capitulation on our hands. IWM small caps finished down 0.86%, and the Dow Jones finished down 0.24%. Volatility rose in all four of these headline indices, and we had negative breadth in everything other than the Dow Jones. And this breadth, really washed out at one point during the day. In the morning, the breadth was actually pretty strong. And then it really just fell apart throughout the session, and things started spilling to the downside. So let's take a look, because I don't think this is all bad news in terms of what we are seeing. Finviz heat map, and this is what I mean by they shot the generals today. So Apple was down, Microsoft was down big. This thing was down over 4% intraday. Google down, Amazon, Tesla was down big intraday as well. But look at that, Nvidia actually managed to close green, so that's interesting. We're going to take a look at some of these charts in a moment here. Let's actually take a look. I'm curious because, I'm actually surprised that Nvidia closed positive. Let's take a look. We had Nvidia. And this one put in a green candle, so it looks like some capitulation going on here, and then some strong hands coming in and pulling things together. Tesla, also put in a green candle, down 0.82%, so similar dynamic. But take a look at Microsoft. Microsoft really got sparked down to this 50-day moving average today, but it did make a higher low. And then Apple pulling back towards this 10-day EMA. So Apple's been pretty much the strongest stock in the market, and we finally got a bit of a pullback in Apple. Let's take a look at our sectors and style factors so we can see what was going on underneath the hood here. And check this out. So strength in consumer staples, strength in financials. Pretty random that we got financial strength. Telecommunications basically flat. Capital markets basically flat. Some of these sectors ended up closing flat. Pretty much just a small core group. And then the real carnage, solar stocks down almost 4%. What else was down? Cannabis down big. What else? We had software down 3.29%. This is what I mean by a shooting of the generals. Software was down 3.29%. And we also had XLK down 1.64%. So when you think about the way this sell-off has progressed, first it was crypto. They hit that. Then the growth stocks got hit. Small caps got hit. All these different areas of the market, solar stocks, the Cathie Wood stocks, all these pro-risk areas of the market. And at the same time, it was pretty much these FANG stocks like Apple, Facebook, Google, those classic names, Tesla, that were holding the market up by a thread. Now we finally got, to me, what seems like when you're working your way through a sell-off, this is like the final layer of the sell-off, that we got the safe haven assets everyone's been piling into. Those finally gave way, and the selling really accelerated in those groups. Style factors. worst performing style factor for today was growth. Yes, that makes sense. Next after that was momentum. And then you can see quality was down 0.81%. So that's what I mean by like quality was the number 3 worst performer on the list. And usually quality, you would think like that's the safe haven. But when everyone's piling into those quality stocks and like defensives and whatever, at a certain point, if the market really goes risk off, those areas of the market also suffer. Let's take a look at our headline indices and see what happened. It was pretty interesting today. So my trend model flipped down to a -3. We've had strong DIX prints over the last couple days, so I'm keeping that in the back of my mind as we progress through this price action. The S&P 500 ended up flushing down below this monthly value area low. But what is interesting is we continue to watch these 3 pivot levels: 4,700, 4,600, and 4,500. We tagged 4,600 and we actually undercut it, but then we auctioned higher. So basically we rejected 4,600. So after rejecting 4,600, the next level I would look towards is 4,700. So yeah, ES closed just below that monthly value area. Not a good sign, but hey, we did close well off the lows. And this was catalyzed really by this data right here. We got the PPI data in the morning, and you can see producer prices rise more than forecast. So yet another reading that's going to tell the Fed, hey, we need to tighten monetary policy because inflation is rearing its ugly head. And take a look at this. So on this hourly chart, we spilled below the weekly value area. And then towards the end of the session, we started climbing our way back into it. So we still have yet to reclaim it, but I think this is good that we sort of just like V-bottomed off this 4,600. And in the same session that we fell out of value, we're trying to get right back into it. Let's take a look at our other indices. And then we'll take a look at some of my trades for today. The Nasdaq undercut the 50-day moving average and made a higher low here. So that is noteworthy. That one thing I think is good is the market, in terms of Fed Wednesday, there's always that risk, what's the Fed going to say? But I think at this point, everyone knows the taper is going to be accelerated, and that brings rate hikes, closer to the present. So everyone knows that, everyone's reacting to it, everyone is panicking over it. So I think once we finally get the news, anything's possible. We could sell off, but I think the odds are that, we've actually seen the sell-off into the event. And I actually think this is a good thing that in terms of this taper, like consider this for a second. The Fed really has not even started the taper yet, right? Like they're going to be basically going into full swing over the next few months. They could be done by March. The Fed hasn't even raised interest rates yet. But we're already having a complete obliteration of crypto, obliteration of growth stocks. Everything that's more speculative has already been obliterated. So all the froth in the market is pretty much already gone. We could just because liquidity is lower, the whole market just falls apart. We could have that happen. But in terms of a lot of the speculative froth, that sort of stuff, I would say a lot of it's washed at this point, at least in the short term. We could enter some longer term downtrend or whatever, but yeah, I would say this has been a pretty violent flush out of everything that is speculative. And let's take a look at our Russell 2000. It's getting awfully close to a breakdown, but we also made a higher low here. Look at this on the weekly chart. We are flirting with a breakdown in the Russell. Pretty insane. And then let's take a look at our Dogs of the Dow. Dogs of the Dow barely finished negative, only down 0.23% here. And you can see we are still trading above those key moving averages. Yeah, let's take a look at some of these growth stocks that have been punished. So Roblox is one of my favorite companies. I will be adding this back as soon as I can. Roblox actually held up pretty well during this sell-off, so I think that says a lot. But take a look at certain stocks like Shopify. Shopify has gotten sort of obliterated here. DigitalOcean, which is another one of my favorites. I got long this one at around 47 bucks. Sold into this huge red candle because I knew this could be a harbinger of things to come. Sold it around like 115. And DigitalOcean, look at this, from 133 all the way down to 74. That's almost a 50% haircut. So yeah, that's carnage. 50% haircuts, that's no joke. And what's really funny is like after the 50% haircut, then most people will be like, this thing's so overvalued or whatever. But now a lot of the froth is out. Cloudflare. This one and Asana to me were the two poster children of just like overvalued stocks. Cloudflare, before today's carnage, I don't think this is updated yet, had a price to sales ratio of 84.73. So this thing has to be growing literally like a weed in order to justify that. After today's, almost 9% drop, that's going to put this hopefully in like the 70s, but that's still very high. Asana, look at this one trading down in the 60s, now at 38 times sales. CrowdStrike, wow, actually closed flat. That's good. CrowdStrike got upgraded by JP Morgan. Definitely going to be watching this name tomorrow. But yeah, just a lot of carnage. SE down to 224 from 360. So a lot of these names, they're getting their 40 to 50% haircut. So I think that's a good thing that's happening even before the Federal Reserve monetary tightening. The market's pricing it in ahead of time. So let's take a look. What did I do today? So I purchased some Airbnb common shares. I traded this one last week. This is a name I really want to stick with. Had a nice sequence in this one last week, so I added it back today as a core position. So let's see. Airbnb. Yeah, got to this one when it was pretty close to the lows. I basically picked it up right off of this 200-day moving average. So yeah, looking good so far on this position. This one also made a higher low. And I don't think that Omicron's really going to impact their business in a material way. And yeah, Airbnb, this is even before today's sell-off. It's now trading at 20 times sales. So after today's sell-off, it'll be, in the teens, which is just so much more reasonable. I think a good place to allocate to this name, to be honest. So yeah, I allocated in via common shares. I also did some options trading in the morning. I bought some for a scalp, some SPY put options. Actually stopped out of those, within 10 minutes of the market open. And I saw, this was kind of odd. The market breadth was pretty strong. The trend was high. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop out. And then the market really spilled. As soon as it started spilling, then I went ahead and purchased some SPY calls. So I'm still holding these SPY calls. I have the December 20th 464 calls for 384. So liking these calls into what I think is like a super fearful market. And then what else did I do? Closed out the remaining 2/3 of my MP December 17th 45 calls. These ones basically are going to expire worthless. This was a small position. Closed out, just collected what I could, 30 cents. Closed the other third of this out for a small winner. Yeah, overall, this MP trade really just got caught in this crazy sell-off. So MP, this one had a nice headline, looked like it was doing pretty good. Yeah, the selling really just took this one over. So this one was definitely a casualty. And then I got long the Lucid February 18th 40 strike calls. So that's the thing, like, for me, it's like even if I have, say MP didn't work, this one expired for a max loss pretty much. Got a little bit out of it, but it was a pretty small position. That's not, what some people do is like they stop out of some positions or they lose some trades, and then the risk reward is really favorable, and then they don't take that next trade because it's like, oh man, I lost the one before. I did not want to make that mistake, so I was like, I'm going to purchase some Lucid here. Lucid actually traded up 4.39%. The stock's being added into the Nasdaq. And yeah, this one, take a look on the hourly chart. This one's looking good. So we're trading above the weekly point of control, and that could target and move up to 44.88. So yeah, I got long some Lucid as well, because I really think this is where some of the opportunities are presenting themselves. Then the other thing I did, I sold some SoFi 12.5 strike February puts for $1.16. I just put here, SoFi is a stock I would like to invest in, and if my short put goes into the money, I'll buy shares with a cost basis of $11.34, which I feel super comfortable with. This SoFi business I really like. And so here's the deal, like everyone wanted to buy SoFi when it was trading at 23 bucks. So like if you wanted to buy it at 23, now it's trading for a much more reasonable valuation, trading down to 14.48. But I'm going to be purchasing SoFi if it gets down to 12.5. And my cost base will be, you know, pretty much near the SPAC price if it gets there. Do I really think it's going to? Probably not. But it's one of those things where I think if it gets there, it'll end up being a blessing in disguise. Getting to purchase some shares, you know, very close to the $10 original SPAC price. See, I rarely sell puts, but in this particular situation, thought it made sense. So yeah, did that for SoFi. And those are my trades for today. Let's take a look at our VigTech options races. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a big day with Fed Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that a lot of this fear, you know, it's coming into the event. So selling off into the event, I think, is a good thing. So we got Tesla with 2.8 billion of flow. We have SPY, Amazon, QQQ, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, IWM. A lot of the usual suspects. Hey, I see ARK on here. I rarely ever see ARK on this list. Let's check it out. So Apple, of course, mostly calls. Makes sense. Tesla, a bit of a mixed bag. And Tesla, we saw put in a green candle. Nvidia, a lot of puts going up. Nvidia also put in a green candle. Shopify, one big call order went up, but mostly put orders. Microsoft, mostly call options. Let's see if we can find ARK. Ford. Yeah, Ford I was actually considering trading, and I traded Lucid instead. But check this out. Ford actually looks great here as well. I like the candle this one put in. Check this out. So, nice green candle. So yeah, Ford definitely looking solid here for sure. Yeah, mixed action. Ford. Let's see if we can find ARK. I'm curious to see if everyone just like loaded up on puts into these lows. Would not be surprised if they did. Palantir. A lot of puts going up. Whatever happened to Palantir? This was like a FinTwit favorite. Yeah, down at 18 bucks. Yeah, this is where buyers stepped in the past. So yeah, I think other than like hedge fund liquidations, like I do think there's a lot of investors that are getting liquidated right now. And I think that's why we're seeing these stocks go like down 10% in a single day. But make no mistake, most of the people at this point that are selling, I don't think they're really selling because they don't have faith in the company anymore. I think they're just selling because they have to and they're on the back foot. Lucid mixed action. Let's see if we can find ARK. Alibaba. Upstart, this is an interesting one. Mixed bag for Upstart. Take a look at the round trip that this one did. See, it just goes to show, like, unless you're just actively trading, it is very tough to establish positions in these names when they're trading at 60, 70, 80 times sales. And we had been talking about that for a couple months now, really just like buying stocks. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's in a bullish trend. I guess it could continue to go higher, like the valuations can get crazy, But in general, like buying when things are at like 100 times sales, like it's just not really a high probability move. Now Upstart's trading at 23 times sales, which is a lot more reasonable. Well, let's see, where is this? We have AIG, IWM, Qs, let's see. Yeah, and the Qs mostly put options going up into those lows. Not seeing ARC here. Let's actually take a look. We'll go to our Insights tab, and ARC should be on here. Okay, the puts call ratio for ARC was 1.85. So investors are buying those put options. Let's take a look at the chart for ARC. I believe this one also made a higher low. Yeah, it made a higher low and put in a green candle at the same spot that it bottomed last time. Yeah, you can see a lot of these puts going up for ARC. You look at this, the 140 strikes. Yeah, everyone's getting hedged into the extreme market weakness. So yeah, against this backdrop, unless the Fed says something that's like totally out of character, totally not what we were expecting, my base case as of this moment is that we are going to retest this 4,700 in the ES futures. As always, we'll have to see what happens. Hope you all had an awesome trading day, and I will see you all tomorrow.